Joining us now is retired U.S. Army Colonel John Mills. And also, we're joined by Fred Fleitz, the former chief of staff of the National Security Council under President Trump. He's also a Newsmax contributor. Fred, your assessment of how this all went down and what kind of intel could the Chinese have already received from that balloon?
It's a pleasure to be here. You may have heard some experts say that this balloon didn't really matter because the Chinese spy on us using satellites. That's not correct. Balloons are a very valuable spy platform because they go slower, they're at a lower altitude, they can loiter over key targets, and this balloon could have collected a lot of information. My guess is that it didn't collect a lot of information. The purpose was to test us. It was to test our air defenses. It was to test the leadership of President Biden. The fact that Biden let this balloon float over the whole country before shooting it down, I think was a sign of very dangerous weakness. That's what China was looking for.
And Colonel Mills, I want to expand on Fred's point there. A stunning report by Bloomberg saying that the administration allegedly knew the Chinese spy balloon entered U.S. airspace last week, but they wanted to keep it low because of Antony Blinken's scheduled trip to China, which we know has been postponed now, stating, quote, as it turns out, U.S. authorities were well aware of the unidentified object that had entered American airspace on January 28th that had then left and re-entered over North Idaho on Tuesday. But with such a high-profile trip at stake, keeping it on the down low was key. Unfortunately, a local Billings, Montana paper, they blew their cover when they published a picture of the balloon. It looks like the Biden administration wanted to hide this from the American people. Colonel, I want to get your thoughts.
Well, yeah, this administration clearly lives in an upside-down world. It takes American citizens to actually report a intrusion into the air defense identification zone. Now, just very interestingly, General Van Herk, the commander of NORAD Northcom, I looked at his site, and he spoke at the Aspen conference last year and said his number one concern was his lack of situational awareness, which says that NORAD Northcom has significant gaps and is under-resourced. Very interesting. That was last year. But the Biden team wanting to hide this instead of, we want to shoot it in the back when it's leaving the country, but we don't want to address it when it's entering the air defense identification zone. I mean, this just makes absolutely no sense. This is like the same mentality during the war on terror years. Their mentality was if you fight terror, you create terror. Here, if you fight balloons, you obviously create more balloons. So they want to hide this. This is just it totally makes no sense in the world of international politics, international diplomacy, and playing hardball with the Chinese. They are an ascendant country, and they are sending a message. And like Fred said, first and foremost, they were testing the administration. The administration failed.
And Fred, what do you think the Chinese Communist Party is going to do next after this trial balloon was able to float over the continental United States and even part of Alaska?
I think that failures in American leadership like this emboldens all of America's adversaries, and they will be planning more provocations. And look, we know the world is much more dangerous right now because of Joe Biden's weakness and his frivolous foreign policy that focuses on climate change, the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I'm afraid this is just another example of these failures, and I think the world is pretty unstable now, and incidents like this is going to make it worse.
And Colonel Mills, there was real concern that the balloon was lingering at high enough altitude over sensitive nuclear sites and military bases in the Midwest and even Billings, Montana area. Now, the DoD said they were concerned about debris falling from the balloon. Was there a window to shoot it down earlier without harming civilians? I've heard the Aleutian Islands was probably the best spot.
Well, absolutely. Maybe it would have to have entered the air defense identification zone. If we just shoot it down in open territory over the open territory, that wouldn't have made sense. But as soon as it entered the ADIZ closer up around the Aleutians, absolutely engage. And we do have fighter interceptors at Elmendorf that routinely engage the Russian bomber tracks coming down the west coast. So it makes no sense. And then over Montana, both the governor and Representative Zinke said that just makes no sense, that you're not going to hit anything in Montana, shoot it down. But Montana, North Dakota, and then your track you showed, curiously enough, from went over Strategic Command headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska at Offutt Air Force Base. So now we're going to let it not only go over the missile fields of Montana and North Dakota, we're going to let it fly right over Strategic Command at Offutt. I mean, this is insanity, and this will lead to more balloons. So you got to fight these balloons, or you will create more balloons.
Well, a great panel here tonight. Retired Army Colonel John Mills and former National Security Council Chief of Staff Fred Fleitz. Thank you both for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you, Logan.